Okay, you're retiring and you've decided to move back to Canada to be closer to friends and family. The only problem is the US is about to hit you with a large exit tax as you're leaving. That's exactly what almost happened to one of our clients. In this video, we discuss how we saved a client over $1 million in exit taxes. Hello, my name is Brian Haggard. I'm a certified financial planner, chartered financial analyst, and I'm the founder of Retirement and Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement. Now, for a lot of our clients, when they retire, they actually stay down here in the States. But there are many of our clients that decide at retirement they're going to move back to Canada. And that can cause a myriad of tax problems. For some people, it might have an exit tax, so they might have an exit tax upon leaving the States. For other people, they may not have an exit tax, but they may face significantly higher taxes upon leaving the US when they're actually in Canada. And for a lot of those clients, tax planning is extremely important. Today, we're going to talk about a client scenario in which they were going to leave the United States and get hit with a gigantic exit tax until we stepped in and helped them save a lot of money. We're going to run through that scenario, and hopefully this will help you in your situation as well. So who is subject to the exit tax? What is this this exit tax? So not everybody here, when they leave the United States, is going to have an exit tax. The people that are typically subject to the exit tax are US residents, US permanent resident green card holders who have been green card holders for 8 or more years and now are leaving the United States and giving up their green card. Also, you typically have to have over $2 million of worldwide assets to be subject to the exit tax. Now, there's some other criteria as well, but those are the two situations that we see are the most common. So if you're a US citizen and you're just leaving the United States and moving back to Canada, that would not trigger the exit tax unless you gave up your US citizenship. If you're a visa holder, because visa holders are not typically considered permanent residents, moving back to Canada also typically would not be subject to the exit tax. So the people that we see the most often that are subject to the exit tax are longer-term green card holders, like I said, that have been green card holders for 8 or more years here in the States, and whose assets exceed over $2 million of worldwide assets. Now, this is also can be a little bit confusing. This $2 million is not a family limit. It is a per person limit. So for example, two spouses can move back to Canada and they might be worth $3 million, but the wife might be worth 2.5 million. The husband might be only worth 500,000. And in that scenario, the wife would be subject to the exit tax, but the husband would not because the husband is under that $2 million threshold. So it's over $2 million per person, and only one of two spouses may be subject to it. Like I said, there are other criteria. If you earned and paid over $150,000 a year or so in taxes for the last 5 years, you might also be subject to the exit tax. But quite honestly, this is the situation that we see most often. So what are the ramifications of being subject to an exit tax? And there tends to be two main ramifications that we want to be worried about if you're going to be subject to the exit tax. The first is there's a deemed distribution of any pre-tax IRA accounts. So let's just say that you have, to make it simple, $1 million IRA, and you are subject to this exit tax. That $1 million in the year that you exit the United States would all become taxable income to you. You can imagine that would be a pretty big hit for a lot of people if all of a sudden on your tax return, on your final US tax return, you had to report an extra $1 million of income. You also have deemed sales of capital assets like stocks, right? So maybe you have stocks that have unrealized gains of significant amount of money. Maybe at your company, you were gifted a lot of stocks or you earned a lot of stock. Now you're leaving. Well, that is all, it's like you deemed and sold all of those stock the day before you left the United States. And again, that could also result in a significant tax burden as well. Now, I want to give you the situation that we faced in how we tried to help this client out. So the client that we were talking about has a couple different big assets that were going to be subject to the exit tax. The first asset is he had about a $350,000 pre-tax IRA. He also had significant Roth IRAs. We started working together a few years ago to try to get his IRA assets after retirement converted into Roth money to help him save when he moved into higher tax provinces up in Canada. So we did a lot of Roth conversions prior to him even moving to Canada, which already knocked his IRA down a little bit. But his biggest assets were company stock and some crypto assets. So he had worked at a technology company here in the States. That technology stock did extremely well for him. And as a result, he had over $2 million in unrealized capital gains on his technology company stock. He also did very, very well with Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies as well. So when he was leaving, he had over 3.8 million, almost $3.9 million in unrealized capital gains. Now, his situation was that he became a green card holder in 2018. And when he came to us, his plan was to keep his green card for the 10 years that it was eligible for, that it was valid for. And when it expired in 2028, he was at that point going to leave the United States after 10 years of being a green card holder. The issue is when he was going to leave the United States, this was going to result in almost $1,012,000 in exit taxes, $1,011,720 to be exact, because he was going to have a deemed distribution of his IRA accounts, and he was going to have to realize almost $3.9 million in capital gains when he left the United States. That is a huge chunk of money that, quite honestly, when he hired us, he had no idea that this was even something that he was hiring us about. He had no idea about this exit tax until we started to educate him a bit. So what did we start to do? So when clients come to us in this situation, we want to see if there's any ways to avoid the exit tax first and foremost. So one way that we could potentially avoid the exit tax is getting somebody's net worth under $2 million. There's some different ways that we can do that. A lot of times if there's a couple and they're married, we might try to split up those assets so that each person's net worth is under 2 million. I gave the example before where somebody might have a net worth of $3 million, but this one, the wife was worth 2.5 and the husband only had $500,000 in his name. Well, is there a way that we can kind of split up the assets a little bit more evenly to get both spouses under $2 million and therefore avoiding the exit tax for both of them? Now, obviously, in his case, he was well over that $2 million threshold. So there's no way that we were going to be able to get his net worth under $2 million. He also was single, meaning there weren't any assets to split between spouses either. Now, another option that some people will go is that some people just become a US citizen. If you become a US citizen, you do avoid the exit tax. That is the benefit of doing that. And the reason why is when you move to Canada, you still have to, as a US citizen, you still have to file Canadian or US taxes, even though you're a Canadian resident. So the US knows they're going to get their tax money. They don't get you on the way out. Kind of the reason behind the exit tax is to make sure that you've earned all this money in the US, they want to make sure that they get that money, right? So if you become a US citizen, you have to file US taxes. So yeah, it does help you with the exit tax, but a lot of people don't want to become US citizens for the hassle involved, and they really don't want to deal with paying US taxes for the rest of their life if they want to deal with it. Another area that we can look at is there a way to give up your green card prior to those 8 years? And ultimately, that's what we decided to do with this client. So I mentioned before that he became a green card holder in 2018, and his goal was, or his thought when he started working with us was he would keep that green card all the way until 2028 and then give it up at that point. Well, what we noticed is if he could give up his green card this year in 2024 and become a Canadian resident in 2024 instead of 2028, it would then allow him to avoid the exit tax. Now, why is 2024 so important? Well, when you're looking at these 8 years of green card holdings, it is 8 calendar years. So 2018 counts as a full year, 2024 counts in a full year. So you have to look at every single year. Even though he got his green card later in the year in 2018, it still counts as a full year. And even though he might have given up his green card early in 2024, that counts as a full year. And remember, we can't stay here for 8 years, because if you're 8 years or longer, that does trigger the exit tax. So for him, it was really simple. You can stay here until 2028, 2027, 2028, even 2025. But when you leave, you're going to get hit with $1 million exit tax. Or you can leave in 2024 and have zero exit tax. And for him, that was a really easy decision. So what was the result? By him giving up his green card in 2024, he had $0 in exit taxes. But what's even more interesting is now when he moves to Canada, all of his cost basis will now reset to the value of what it was when he became a Canadian resident. So all of those unrealized gains that he had completely were wiped away. He can now move back to Canada, sell all of his crypto, sell all of his company stock, and have no tax ramifications by doing that, because in Canada, his cost basis reset. Also, you don't have the deemed distribution of IRA accounts either. So for him, he will have to pay taxes. He'll have a tax withholding here in the US, and he'll have to pay taxes in Canada as well on that money. But there's no one-time large upfront taxation of those IRA accounts. And so for the result of this client is it's a tax savings of over $1 million by just simply giving up his green card this year versus next year. That is a huge difference for him, and it was a no-brainer for him. So as far as exit tax planning, there's two things that we always like to look at with our clients. First, is there a way to avoid the exit tax? And that's what we were able to do with this client. By simply giving up his green card earlier, we were able to avoid the exit tax for him, resulting in huge tax savings. Now, for some people, there is no way to avoid the exit tax, right? Maybe they've been here for well more than 8 years. Maybe their net worth is tens of millions of dollars with some of our clients, right? If they left the US, there's just no way that we can avoid the exit tax. So for some of those clients, what we are trying to do is really minimize the exit tax. And what we do by trying to minimize that, for a lot of our clients, we do a lot of Roth conversions, getting their IRA accounts into Roth accounts over time, as opposed to having a big tax hit all at once. We might try to, if they have a lot of unrealized capital assets, we may try to realize those capital gains over a period of time, as opposed to trying to do it all at once as well. So there's some strategies that we will try to implement to try to minimize that exit tax for those clients, as opposed to having this huge tax bill all at once. Now, the issue is, if you're thinking about leaving the US and you think you're going to be subject to the exit tax, you want to start planning earlier than later, right? If you give me a call and say, hey, Brian, I'm moving to Canada tomorrow, and what can we do? It's too late, right? We want to start to plan for years in advance. The client that we talked to before was talking about before with this situation. We've been working together for years to prepare to try to minimize the exit tax together. Now we're able to minimize the exit tax and get him into a much better spot tax wise when he does move up to Canada as well, to try to lower his tax liability in the long term by doing Roth conversions. So if you are planning on leaving the States, you probably want to start to do this planning sooner rather than later. Again, my name is Brian Haggard, certified financial planner, chartered financial analyst, founder of Retirement and Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement plan. We are a fee-only financial planner, which means we don't charge any commissions. If you are a cross-border retiree or in thinking about either staying in the States or leaving the US, you might want to consider coming to our website, retiremitten.com, and scheduling a virtual meeting. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And if you're looking to get these updates quite regularly, please like and subscribe below as well. Thank you very much.